Hello, I'd like to share with you some thoughts about Parshat Yitro this year, 5784. We're reading Parshat Yitro on the 24th of Shevat, which starts tomorrow night here in Israel. And I saw some amazing thoughts here in Rav Hirsch, Chumash, with thoughts from Rav Hirsch, which I'd like to share, and then also relate them a little bit to our current events here in Israel with our war in Gaza. First of all, the Parsha is famous because it has the 10 Commandments, and the 10 Commandments, interestingly, Rav Hirsch points out, the first one says, Ani Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am the Lord your God. That's how it's normally translated, but Rav Hirsch says, this is a commandment, so it's not just like a statement, I am the Lord your God, hi, I'm the Lord your God. No, it means, I shall be your God. I shall be your God. Meaning, I am commanding you to make me your God. That's how it starts. And then he goes on to say there shouldn't be any other God next to me, that I am the one who is ordering your lives and asking for your service. Then, in the mitzvah of Sabbath, Rav Hirsch has an amazing commentary. There's a short verse here. It says, Sheshet yamim ta'avod v'asita kol malaktecha. We say that every week in Kiddush. Tomorrow night we should be privileged to say that in Kiddush. In 6 days you shall work, ta'avod v'asita kol malaktecha, and you do all your labor. So Rav Hirsch explains beautifully on the word ta'avod. He explains it as not just you shall work, but you shall serve. I mean, everything you do is in my service. You, Israelite, are a continuation of Adam, who I put in the Garden of Eden, to keep it and to tend it, to protect it and to tend it. And everything you do during your work week is service toward me. What a beautiful image of a life of service. Furthermore, it goes on to say, V'asita kol malaktecha, and you should do all your labor. Rav Hirsch explains that what is a malacha? Labor. He says malacha is related to the word malach, which means an angel or a messenger. You take something in the physical world and you make it into your messenger in the service of God. That's what all the things that we're doing during the week is we're doing malachtecha. We're making our messengers in the physical world to serve Hashem, to ta'avod. It's a very beautiful image. And then in the second half of the second five commandments of the 10 Commandments, Rav Hirsch explains that now that Hashem has given you the framework of who you're serving and what the goal is to serve. So then he also points out that every other human being is also put there next to you by God. And he has also his destiny, which God has put for him. And therefore, this is the basis of morality, that how can we do something to cause bad to our fellow man who's also has been placed there by God to fulfill his destiny and to serve him in his way. And all the 5 commandments that we see there, those are all various aspects of how we're not allowed to infringe upon the rights of our fellow man. For example, all that is his, your fellow man's, his life, right? Thou shalt not murder. His marriage, you should not commit adultery. His freedom, you should not steal him, sell him into slavery, or kidnap him. his happiness, his honor, his possessions, all those things have been sanctified to him by God himself. And therefore, you don't dare put your hands on what belongs to your neighbor. Coming to current events, I also like to relate to an episode in the beginning of the Parsha, which the Parsha is named after Yitro, Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, who comes to speak to Am Israel after they went out from Egypt. One of the amazing things, the famous things that Yitro tells Moshe, he says, Moshe, look, you're sitting all day answering questions to the people. You have to delegate, you have to get more people involved. And he tells them to break up the civil service, let's call it, and he said you need captains of 1,000s and captains of 100s and captains of 50s and captains of 10s. You need to break this down into groups and get more people involved in organizing the people. And I think that's also an important message to relate to the war that we're having in Gaza now. What do I mean by that? I called a friend of mine this week that I hadn't spoken to in a long time to see how he's doing. And he's doing well, and he told me that his brother-in-law has been in reserve duty since the war started on Simchat Torah. It's almost 4 months now. Also, 3 of his sons, 3 of his brother-in-law's sons, his nephews, are also in the army. And this is a common thing, especially in the religious families, the national religious families, where so many people serve in the army. There's people have been away from home and away from their jobs for months on end, for 4 months. It's an incredible thing, and we have a tremendous gratitude to them. And we know a lot of people like that. But the question is, what is the goal? What is the goal? What are we trying to achieve? And that's why I say that we do well to take this lesson from Yitro and get more people involved in talking about this, because the government has not sent out clear messages. They say things, they send out slogans and whatnot. I'm not trying to be too critical. I hope I can say these things in the proper way. But the question is where we want to end up after this. One of the things I don't like, and that's why I think we need to have more people involved, when this war happened, so the government shuffled around the cabinet, shuffled around who's in the government, etc., because what was convenient. This is a thing you couldn't do in America, but in Israel, when it's much more undefined, the prime minister shuffles his ministers around, because the government he had before was good for him to advance his agenda and stay in office while before the war happened. When the war happened, he has other goals which the people who were in his government might not agree with and might want a different approach. So he shuffles them out. He brings in other people in. For example, I just read in the paper today or yesterday, Aryeh Deri, the head of the Shas party, he gives one of his comments. He said, I have to take sleeping pills after listening to what's going on in the war cabinet. He's the only Haredi, Haredi, which means like a certain type of religious Jew. He's from the Haredi parties. He's the only one who's observer in the war cabinet. Well, and that's not surprising. Why is he there? Because he was the original one 30 years ago. He himself and his party, Shas, were the only religious party that supported the Oslo Accords, which led to giving away Gaza, giving up control of Gaza. And so, and the other people, the Aguda, who did not vote for it, did not support the Gaza, they're not now in the war cabinet. Meaning, he's brought in all the people that continue with the idea of giving up land and authority to the Arabs. And then it just prolongs the problem. We're losing so many precious soldiers there. This week also, the last week, Israelis were protesting at the crossing point where the so-called humanitarian aid was going into Gaza. The trucks giving them food and fuel and everything. And so now the army just closed it, made that a closed military zone, so people can't protest there anymore. But I don't know why we're even fighting this whole thing. If we're just fighting just to not to take control, but just to kill a lot of Arabs who are shooting at us, why are we wasting our time and losing our brothers to do that? Why don't we just stop giving them food, stop giving them water, stop giving them electricity? I mean, I think that'd be much. I mean, if they give up our hostages and surrender, then we can give them again. Not saying we have to kill them, but why are we doing this the hard way? Why don't we do it the easy way? So these are questions which are unfortunately weighing on our hearts during these days, and that's why I say we would do well to take the Yitro's advice to get more people involved, not just to have it just one person up at the top deciding. We get more people involved, make it a more democratic thing. Let the people decide how we should be fighting this war. So those are my thoughts. Thanks for listening. Shabbat Shalom.